Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the KQLCafe. We're already in March 2025, and we're still seeing people joining. That's great. Unusually 1 week earlier, as Gianni and I are traveling next week. But in April, we're back to the normal schedule at the last Tuesday of the month. As always, your hosts are Gianni and myself. And the agenda for today, no big changes. We'll talk what we have found and what's new and what might be interesting for you around KQL. Then we have a very special guest, Sergio Albea. I hope I pronounced that correctly, who will talk about his daily ramblings with KQL and what he's doing with it. We then have something for you to learn in KQL. We'll look at a operator today. And as always, what did you do with KQL this month with a little contribution from myself and Gianni. So let's get directly into the news. First of all, not really something about news, but someone, and I forgot to add the name apparently, added something around documentation in KQL, and I found that quite an important topic, because it's like when in any programming or scripting language or query language, if you write KQL queries that are supposed to be used by others, and sometimes they might be very self-explaining. I mean, if you're just doing, events where event ID equals, apparently there's not a lot to explain. But as KQL queries can become complex, or when using certain operators, it can help for other people that read your KQL code if you add some comments. So adding comments is quite straightforward. Either do the double / above your code, or you can even add it next to your code. So that little reminder, and the blog post shows some more examples. Now, I thought related to that, as I was discussing this yesterday with Gianni, another topic I'd like to remind you, just in case you need some inspiration. Bert-Jan, who most of you probably already know, he started with his detection GitHub repository a couple of years ago, and including myself, many people have adopted his structure and his template. So if you are thinking of starting to create, or if currently you have your KQL queries in a non-structured form, here's a little reminder. Here's a cool KQL template. Basically, it's quite easy. You define the title. If it's a KQL query that's related to security, to a specific detection, you can link that with the MITRE attack. If not, for example, I always use this section if it's not applicable. Add maybe a brief description. What I also, it's coming down below. If it's still about security, add to risk. Then if you found this KQL and you want to share this, or if it's your own, you can add the author and references. Sometimes we create queries based on an inspiration or based on a blog post, a technical article. Instead of writing a login description, it's also okay if you just refer to your related subject. And below there, what we typically see is when it's security related, in which environment you can run it. Unfortunately, sometimes there are little differences. The famous example is with the timestamp and with the time generated attribute. Although as people are moving to the unified security portal, that should go away. But maybe you're creating a query that has nothing to do with Sentinel and Defender XDR. You would run them in native log analytics workspace, but it can be helpful to do so if there's any differences on the platform in the KQL code. Good. Then Detective Agency is back, season 3. I just stumbled up on that a few days ago. Haven't started yet myself, to be honest. But for all the big fans of the previous Kusto Detective Agency and who want to be a little bit of a Sherlock Holmes and apply their KQL knowledge to it, or use this as a platform to increase their knowledge, here you go. Another episode of the Kusto Detective Agency. And as always, there are also prizes to win, depending on the points and the score and how fast you are in solving the challenges. I just saw a post in LinkedIn this morning coming by where already first people, celebrated their prize wins here. Then some new information shared by Thomas Naunheim, the IdentityInfo Table, and I have to be explicit here, in Defender XDR. There are 2 IdentityInfo tables, one in Microsoft Sentinel and one in Defender XDR. Sometimes that can be a little bit confusing because they are not really, fully synchronized in terms of the attributes they are carried on. But what's interesting here, since ever within the IdentityInfo Table, we had group membership information that was already very useful. If you wanted to quickly, find out what user has which groups or vice versa, what are the members of a specific Entra ID or Azure Active Directory group, you could leverage KQL to do so. We then also already had this table about the eligible roles, but that table would only work for direct assigned roles, or that was my understanding, if at a time when the system takes a snapshot of the data, you might see a user in a role, but the next day maybe not. We now have an additional attribute in the table that basically also gives us information about the privileged admin roles or administrative roles that you have assigned through PIM, so Privileged Identity Management. Here on the next, I just took a snapshot a few minutes ago, so this is what you will basically get. We now have this new attribute, Privileged Entra roles, and you will see the role that is assigned to the user. You will also see information whether it's assigned or eligible. You will see information about the expiration and whether it was directly or indirectly. So I guess this opens up for a lot of new possibilities. Even Thomas already wrote a function that you'll find here, where he's basically mapping all the identified assigned roles with his framework, where he makes recommendations of, what privilege level should be considered as highly privileged, etc. So if you are working in this space, definitely give this a look and save some time by making use of his function that he wrote that basically does a lot of the work of the mapping behind the scenes. Then another thing I stumbled upon, I'm not sure if it's really super new, but at least it's surfaced in this year, and that is in the Azure Data Explorer website. There are some new cybersecurity functions listed, and I looked at some of them, and they are listed as also to be working on the log analytics, Microsoft Sentinel, etc. To be honest, I haven't had the time to play with them, but for anyone who's interested in these types of functions, maybe take a look. Definitely the blast radius can help, or also the exposure. Anyone who's dealing with the exposure management, etc., recently might be interested to look into those operators. Then, not new, but simply a congratulations to Stephen Lim. I guess everyone in the space of security knows Stephen Lim by now. He is a very active member in the KQL and security community. So I wanted to take this opportunity and thank him for all his contributions. And he posted this week that his GitHub repository is very famous. And it's not just famous, there's also a lot of good stuff in there. If I had the time, I would spend every minute, every morning when I see his posts, digesting his things, sometimes complex KQL, but also sometimes easy. And as I always repeat, the beauty is sometimes in the simplicity of how to get to some information. Yeah, and with that, I'm done with the news and updated, and I'd like to give a very warm welcome to Sergio. And I suggest I hand over the virtual mic to you and let you introduce yourself.
Perfect. Thank you, Gianni. Thank you, Alex, to give me as a guest this month in your KQLCafe. I'm really happy with this opportunity. So I'm going to share my presentation. I hope I'm sharing the correct screen. Can you see my screen?
It's not loading yet. Yes,
now it's coming.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So hello, everyone. From my side, I would like to talk about how to detect internet service providers that look suspicious with KQL queries. And why internet service providers? I will give you a bit of context, the reason behind. I'm working as security engineer, threat hunting specialist in a company located in Switzerland. The company is called Switch, and we are the national research and education network for Switzerland. We are managing the top level codes for CH, Switzerland, and LI, Liechtenstein. I hope to pronounce it well for the registers. And we are really focused on protect the network and the infrastructures of the research of the education sectors. So with that, it comes a big challenge, and was one of the reasons that I decided to join to this company. And is the fact that as we are managing and securing a lot of students, by law, we could say that every student can connect with whatever they want, from whatever they want, and doing whatever they want. So could be a legitimate connection using a Tor browser from Russia using a Raspberry. So that's our reality. And for this reason, I have to work a lot with threat hunting and detect suspicious behaviors. I work a lot with behaviors. I will talk about this in the next slides. So this is also one of the reasons that I'm detecting these ISPs. Regarding my hobbies, quickly, I love football a lot, playing, watching. I'm a big fan. Also, music is one of the part of my life. And finally, quickly, I arrived to Switzerland around 6 years ago. Was totally big challenge, new culture, new temperature. And now I'm really happy with these things. But I'm coming from a small village close to Barcelona, Spain, which is called Valls, and is famous for two things. Always, I love to share that. Be the best one, building human castles, as you can see in the left, and in the right to have one of the most strange competitions to see if who can eat more onions in 1 hour. Yeah, is who. Yeah. So let's go to the topic itself. Quickly going to the agenda. I will give you a quick introduction about the difference between internet service provider, autonomous systems, and autonomous system numbers. Then the advantage that we can have if we detect suspicious internet service providers, the difference among them, expected results with the KQL queries, and of course the funniest part that is the KQL queries itself. By the way, at the end of the session, Alex and Gianni, if you can tell me where I can share the KQL queries, just let me know and I will share all of them that I will talk through the presentation.
Send them to Alex, then they will appear in the show notes.
Okay, super. So to give you some numbers, in 2023, we had more than 30,000 ISPs around the world. 30,000. Now in 2025, we are close to 40,000. And as you can imagine, everyone has different type of protection, different types of investment in terms of security. So I will give you different cases that it will show you that difference. What is an ISP? ISP is a typical company that you go to contract internet. So it can be Vodafone, Swisscom, Telefónica in Spain. There are different ones. So you go there and they give you access to internet. What is autonomous systems? Autonomous systems take it as a range of IPs that the ISPs are using to give access to the internet. So every ISP is able to have one at least or multiple autonomous systems. So what it means at the end is group of range of IPs that can share to the clients. But as you can see in the right and the CIDR, this range of IP will be complicated to remember. No, if you have to remember all the autonomous systems. So what we have is the autonomous system numbers that basically is a key identifier. Instead of remember all this range of IP, you can say, okay, this range of IP 8,888 is assigned to this ISP or whatever. No, it's like when you go to Google. If you have to remember IPs, it will be complicated. You remember Google, you type it, and you go. That's the same. It's a really good reference. And IS numbers can have one or can have multiple range of autonomous systems. If you want to have more information, I will talk in the last slide, but just to let you know, there is a place called IANA. IANA are is the organization, I would say, that is managing and assigning all these IP autonomous systems and other interesting information. That's really nice. And in fact, I use it time to time to create some KQL queries. They have really interesting information. As I said, as you can imagine, with close to 40,000 ISPs, there are some of them that are more secure and less that are totally less secure. What it means, there are ISPs that, of course, perhaps are the cheapest ones, that they are investing zero or really low money in security aspects. In terms of response, there are ISPs that when they detect some suspicious activity from an IP, from a domain, they will block in less than, I don't know, 30 minutes. But there are other ones, as you can see here, this Ponynet one. If you see the average takedown time, it means that after to detect a malware site, they spend more than 14 days to take the page down. So as a hacker, you can imagine that instead of go to the more secure way, I will publish some malware or I will make some malicious activities using the less secure ISPs at the end. And of course, then there are different things about explanation or justification when they detect that some of their IPs, their autonomous systems, are triggering some malicious activities. Depending on the country, no, every country has different laws. Every country has different legislation. So could be that a user and a student, as I said at the beginning, connecting to an ISP in China will not have the same security that if they are connected in some less target as a risky country. So, as I said, this is a really nice place. I suppose that some of you know URL house. And further than verify different things, also you can verify the reputation of the autonomous system numbers. And I will show you also another examples, but as you can see here, this is an important one. This Ponynet, I have to admit that I have seen it a lot, and they are really active. And as you can see, they have found more than 10,000 places with malwares. So if you detect in your KQL queries, if from this range of autonomous systems that something is coming, I will totally recommend you to monitor. And this is just one example that I found with the KQL queries that I will show you in the next slides. So, which are the advantages of detecting ISPs versus traditional ISPs? If some hacker is sending you a malware by email, is trying to trigger some DDoS attack against your infrastructure, or others, if you are lucky, your defense and response systems, your CM solution, or someone will communicate it, and that IP, that domain will be blocked. So we'll agree on that, no? What will happen? Or monitor. But what will happen? We can feel perhaps that when we have blocked the IP of the domain of this attack, we can feel as that, no? That, okay, we are blocked, we are safe. But that's not reality, the reality. The reality is that one. The reality is that for them, that you block them an IP or a domain is nothing. It's nothing. Why? Because if they are using an ISP where they are blocking the IPs, the domains in 14 days, imagine. Or if they have multiple ones, okay, you have blocked me one, but what can happen? I will trigger another attacks, and yeah, cool, you block me one IP and one domain, but they have a lot of other ones. So imagine that you are able to detect the ISP. What it means? That you can totally group all these IPs, all these domains that are coming from. It's totally another approach that help you to different things, different benefits. For example, react before an attacker use a new ISP from a risky ISP. You have identified an ISP that is just triggering signing attempts, and all of them are failure ones. Okay, so if I have a success, I will totally trigger another, or even I will not allow it. Why I want to have someone signing from a ISP that is tagged as a suspicious by URL house, for example? React quickly to possible DDoS attacks. Imagine that you have an ISP that never has access to your environment, and you detect a new one, and you start to see different connection attempts. That's also one of the advantages of this ISP detection. Not wait until someone inform about some malicious activities. The same, reduce user impact due to the proactive ISP monitoring. And last one, if some of you are working with MISP basically, in a nutshell, I would say that is a tool, a place where you can store different information about IOCs, can be malware information, URL information, and domains. But imagine that you have to add IP by IP, waiting until some malicious activity is triggered. If you know the ISP ranges, the ISP autonomous system numbers, and the autonomous system ranges, you can add all of them, perhaps. It will totally speed up the time to add all this information in MISP. So, expected KQL results. For the KQL queries that I will show now, there are key aspects that are important to understand. First of all, percentage and ratios. And thanks, Gianni, because the ratios is something that I learned from you last year in the Workplace Ninja in Switzerland. And then I will work with distinct IPs. If an ISP, if an internet service provider is triggering attacks or connections using, for example, more than 100 different IPs, is also really good key indicator. I will show you examples. And then classifications. As I said, if we can group by ISP, you can detect a lot of cases without going granularly to every IP. Then we can group by autonomous system numbers, then by domains, then with IP. But bigger one, I think that will totally reduce our time investment. How to detect and how to classify ISP? There are different ways. You can use the native information, as you can see on the left. There are different tables. I think that also the identity ones now have the ISP field. So you can use this option, but I would suggest always to use an external list, as you can see on the right, basically because it comes with more information. So you will see also the ASN numbers, the ASN numbers, the ASN ranges. So I think that is totally useful. So first example of a KQL query. As you can see here, we have on the left ISP, location of the ISP, address that they have tried to connect, total count. Total count means total signing attempts during last 30 days. Some of my tenants, total different IPs, not the same one, different IPs, suspicious signing, success signing, and suspicious percentage. So if we go deeply over that, let's go with the first one, no? Horizon LLC in Tasha. They were using just one IP, total different IPs, and they were having 3,738 suspicious signing, but just one IP. So in this case, we could review why this IP is trying so many attempts, and perhaps just block this IP. No? The same happened with the second one, no? Emmanuel Hosting UK. They tried signing attempts 1,300 times, but we have 12 success. So I will totally investigate why we have these 12 ones. But then we have these next one that are the important ones. Smartphone, Mobile Hong Kong, and Broadband in Korea. They have used 69 and 61 different IPs with zero success signing. Zero. That's for me totally suspicious. Why I have someone with using so many different IPs and with zero success? I will totally monitor these ones. And if there are some success, I will go behind and I will configure some detection rules to at least have an alert about that. And if we go with the last one, the same. Don't ask me to say the name. I'm really bad in Taiwanese. Changwei Telecom Taiwan. This one is the same. Total different IPs 123 and just 11 success. I will totally monitor these ones too. As I said at the beginning, there are different cases where you can take the number and go to URL house to review the reputation. But then, surprise, there are ones that were appearing in my KQL queries. And when I went to your house, this autonomous system number should not be routed or repeated because it's under control of cyber criminals. And here there is an important gap. URL house is saying total IP observed is 1, and I can tell you that no, it's not 1. There are thousands. Okay, and it's just one example that I'm showing you. I have a lot more, but I will not boring with all this stuff. And let's go with the KQL queries. For that, I will show you 3 types of scenarios. Signing attempts, failures versus success, emails tagged as threads, and email not tagged as threads, and finally network. Yeah, there is a gap. Is connection attempts versus connections, connection success versus connection not success. So first one, and as I said before, I will share these KQL queries with Alex. This one is using the default field ISP that you have with the identity logon event tables and Defender XDR or in the email events. And as you can see, basically, I'm differentiated with the failure reason field. If it's success, it counts as a valid. If it's not success, it not counts as a valid. You can add more value to this KQL query. In fact, I have other ones because there are not success that are not failure ones. Can be used with the multi-factor, can be other ones. But just to give you an example, using this KQL query, you can identify during the last 30 days, as you can see in the query, an ISP China Mobile, they are using more than 200 different IPs, and all of them, all the signing attempts failure. That's all. Second one, the same, Korea Telecom. That's all. So at the end is depending on the ratio that you want to decide. I have more than, I don't know, 100 different IPs with zero valid. I want to have an alert every time that there is a success. So it depends at the end on everyone. The same with email threads. In this case, I'm using this external source to then match the IPs that are sending me the emails with the corresponding autonomous system numbers. So what I can see here is, okay, I have different IS numbers, ISN names that are sending me different emails, this amount of emails, and all of them has been detected as threat. There is zero valid, so the suspicious percentage, of course, is 100%. And then, as I said in the previous slides, it depends on your criteria. If an internet service provider, as the last one, is using 40 different IPs, and all of them are detected as threat, perhaps I would recommend to move all the emails in quarantine, because the reputation of this ISP and the threat that they are sending not looks really, really good. So as you have here different examples. At the end, I think that everyone will have different results based on your sector, your business. So it's totally take it as a reference, but not as is happening in your environment, because you could perfectly have totally different type of ISPs. And the last one, detection networks. We have the same. Here I'm showing you also the AS numbers. So in case that I'm seeing some CIDR AS number that is triggering connections attempts, and the most of them are not success, as you can see on top, I will totally go to URL house and I validate which is the status of this ISP. Okay. And these are just 3 scenarios, but you can imagine, you can select and create a lot more based on another criteria. More information. As I said at the beginning, Gianni is the global organization coordination of DNS route, IP addressing, and the assignment of these assigned numbers authority as autonomous as systems. And I will totally recommend you, if you have time. It's a nice place to understand more this stuff of networks. They talk also about BGP. And the second one, the same. The second one, the same. European Electric Internet Service. They have some tools for BGP to see which way the connections are using, trying to select always the best and the most shorter way to exchange the communications. Is also really a good one. My last slides. As I said at the beginning, I'm working a lot with behaviors, because in my case, the students we cannot block them by default, so we have to understand a lot the behaviors. One of them is detect which type of behaviors there are behind of the ISPs where they are connecting. And there are other ones that at the beginning I was just improvising. I have to admit it. Like, okay, I have detected another type of behavior, and it was impossible to classify and understand all type of behaviors that we can have in our environment. For this reason, I create this initiative. This is open source. Basically, I list all the source, all the things that the users can do. The users can use an email. The users can use mobile devices. The users can open browsers. And based on every source, I list the cases. Users can open emails. Users can forward emails, which is the known interaction when they open an email. They can click on a URL. They can open an attachment file. And the second one, they can forward the emails. How we can protect against that? For the links, we can have like a second link verification. For file attachment files, verify if the file is legitimate or suspicious. Verifying, for example, the SHA, for example, the file hashes also. And how to protect against sending information outside of the company by policy. You can deny sharing information, the forward information. But if you are not protected or you cannot apply this protection, you need to understand and verify how you can fight or monitor against that threat. So what it means, understanding the threats. If they can access to, we cannot add the second link verification. We need to understand that they could access to malicious places. They could open malicious files. They could be sharing information that is sensitive. So it's important to understand these two parts. If you are protected, you don't have, I would say, you don't have to be 100% worried because you have some protection. But in case that for business regulation, business requirements, you cannot apply some of this protection, you need to understand the threat and educate your users and apply the corresponding monitoring. This is how it looks. The website, by the way, is skip.com. That has any complication, and you will see this table that I was talking about in the previous slides, checking the different scenarios. Emails, the users can use devices, users can connect with their accounts, can authenticate, can work and manage content, and others. Sorry, I touched that. Okay. Can you still see my screen or?
Not yet.
Okay, I think that I wrongly close it. Okay, here I am. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's all. Conclusions. What I will suggest is, first of all, execute the different queries that I will provide in your environment, and then understand the results. I try to give you some key points that can help you to identify if they are suspicious or not. If there are users with success signings from some of these suspicious internet service providers, I encourage you to request password change and token revoke. At least is what I'm doing in my company. The same if the ISP is detected as suspicious, and usually the emails are going to quarantine, move the emails to quarantine, I mean, and always that they are detected as a threat. Monitor new ISP, new autonomous system numbers. If you detect a new one and never was appearing in your system before, it can also mean some kind of attack or initial attempt. Evaluate the ISPs in your country. It's a good exercise. I did it in Switzerland, and basically you can do it with ChatGPT. I did it with that, I will not lie. I said, give me a table with all the ISPs in my country, classifying in a table the benefits in terms of security and response for everyone. And I was really, really happy with the results. And then as I was applying these in my logs. And then, yeah, as you have seen through the presentation, if you see some of these ISNs that looks suspicious goes and verify the reputation. And perhaps you will discover some surprise as the one that I showed you that was under cyber criminals. That's all from my side.
Good stuff.
Yeah, really. And now I know what this script means that I always saw in your in your postings. I mean, I've been reading all your queries. That's how I become aware of the fact that we should invite you. But to be very honest, I've never questioned what this script refers to. And I've just been clicking a little bit through that repository in addition to your hunting repository. So yeah, definitely another ground for inspiration and also a valuable context. Yeah, I honestly, I really like the idea of basically going, a level above, right? So basically what you're explaining is, okay, we can go after individual IPs. But yeah, definitely can make sense if everything behind that whole ASN is rather suspicious. Depending on your mileage and whether your company will be afraid of missing some important emails. I guess that's always the challenge, right? When we do security, like do we prevent ourselves from getting an order requesting or so? But I guess if the likelihood or if the how do we call it in security, the confidential level, confidence level is high, that there's rather just rubbish behind that ASN. Why not block it? Yeah,
exactly. And it's the protection at the end. Now I was saying that to Gianni before to start the KQLCafe. I'm in Montenegro today, and I was talking with my company about a malicious site, and here you find the reality. When I was there, if you try to use the switch network, you are not able to access to this place. Why? Because the reaction of when this place was communicated is really, really, really fast. But now in my isolated environment, using a Montenegro network, I was able to access to these malicious places without any problems. I tried yesterday and I tried today and the same. So that's the reality. Where are our users connecting? Where are your students? And when they back to their country, they are backing with a clean machine or not. That's an important fact.
So is there any public information available then to actually understand who already has blocked that ASN?
Who has blocked?
Yeah, who already? If you say from Switzerland is not possible, so
list.
Yeah, I should communicate to CERT. So represent that if I don't know if it will be the NREN of Montenegro, CERT or police who should have this information, and they should respond to block that in the.
But my question is more: can I see globally how many of the switch-alike companies actually have taken an action to block something?
That's a good question. Yes, you can use a VPN in every country and verify. I don't know if this information is shared about which are the places blocked by the corresponding NRENs, for example. I don't know exactly.
Because of course, if I'm just a small guy in a company and I see it, I make a decision to block it, and maybe in Switzerland, in Germany, in the Netherlands, they have blocked it. But my users are all over the world, so that could also give me a confidence level, right? Like, hey, the registrars even blocked them already. Why not block them on my end?
Yeah, it's for the reason that I said that ISPs, and I repeat a lot that in my day-to-day work, in day-to-day conference, should be a new type of IOC. Because instead of just be focused on IPs and file hashes and domains, We can take something even bigger. Come on, and we have facts that I show in a slide that saying, hey, this ISN is under cyber criminals. And we're still waiting until some of these hackers is triggering something with data IPs, and then we react. We have the information. That's for me one of the points.
Now, like always when we're just had a discussion this morning with a customer, I mean, adding an IOC is fine, but at some point we also have to think of removing stuff, right? Otherwise we end up with huge block lists. So what's your experience? I mean, do we have some, continuous companies that will, basically stay there forever? But I guess we also have the opposite, right? Where maybe, the provider just was bad luck, and one of his customers is abusing his IP ranges, and with that the whole thing comes down. But at some point you also have to go back and think of releasing it again, right?
Yes, and yes, this topic about managing IOCs is complicated. It's complicated because can be that an IOC that was reported months ago, they back, and you don't have it in the list because I don't know if some of you are using Microsoft Defender and endpoint IOCs, but there is this limitation of 15,000. So sometimes the decision, okay, should I remove the new entries after 24 hours? Should I save them? But I don't have more space. So this is an important fact.
I think for me, how I use them is to see behavior. So basically, if you see accounts, it's more on the threat hunting side, and later you can make detections. But if you see accounts signing in from a CDN or from a VPS or a hosting company, you don't expect them to sign into your Office applications. So for me, those kind of detections are really valuable. And then, like I said before, you also have like the top 10 lists. So the top 10 most evil ASNs are available on the web. And those kinds of things you can do hunting. And also the other way around, if you are in a medium or large company, then often you have one or two telcos or ASNs on your office. And then you have 2 or 3 mobile providers. And even if you go to a foreign country, well, at least in Europe, if you do roaming, then you take your IP address with you. So if I go to Switzerland, then I will still am on my Dutch IP address, so the Dutch ASN. So that way you can also make a baseline on ASNs usual for your organization, and then you can just hunt for the new ones or make even a detection for the new ones. Or if you make an ASN with only one user or with a low amount of users, and like you did the high amount of failures, those are really good detections.
Totally agree. As I think that is, as I said in the conclusions, if you can list kind of the top 10 of most secure ways. In Switzerland we have Swisscom, for example. But for example, there is another one called Yalo. I want not to say nothing bad, but I have been able to access to some places with Yalo than with Swisscom not. So as you mentioned, perhaps have like the top 10 or the ones that I'm secured that they will respond quickly in case of a threat is a good approach. So
I'm just checking to check if there's any pending questions. Someone asks, Sergio, what are you using to keep updated with new KQL? You create your queries on Azure DevOps and push it to GitHub? ?
Yeah, I have a GitHub Repo, but all my queries are in KQL search. I think is the best place to find KQL queries. But I can share also my repo. But basically, they are pushing in the KQL search. Regarding how I'm updated with KQL queries, the same. I go a lot to KQL search, and then I have to admit that I'm doing as Alex, and every day I pass quickly to Stephen Lim profile. Also, because when I'm creating a new KQL queries, I want to ensure that he has not done it before, because so sometimes it has happened. And then something that sometimes people tell me, how you are developing new queries. Basically, what I'm doing is searching for patterns. If you go to, I don't know, Cloud App event tables, you can distinguish by activity types or action types. I go one by one. Which are the less commons? Which are the less commons? And then, okay, based on these less commons, which are the countries? Which are the additional fields information? And based on that is when I start to find a new type of KQL queries from zero. It's how I work when I want to start with new KQL queries.
Good. I feel that I need to partially answer that question. That indicator limit is a pity. So working with Defender since it was born,
Yeah.
I get the question all the time. But the reason, whether you agree or not, it's more of a design question, and also the expectation of people how fast those things get pushed down to the client. So if we think of how, and I know this will sound a little bit philosophical, but if we go back to the 90s or 2000s when we had no cloud and everything was on-prem, software and systems management platforms and security were totally different designed because the aspect of, having to serve millions or hundred thousands, unless, for some big fortune 500 companies where even back in the days with SCCM and LANdesk and all those tools, we also got into capacity limits because of its size. But usually, size wasn't a problem, right? We could push down things near real time to all the clients. Now in cloud, as we know, especially when this all started, I mean, you might remember when we had Intune, it took 24 hours to get the policy updated. And that was basically how things were developed and how they should scale. Now we do see also in the Microsoft world, we're now way years forward, and we can almost do live syncs and all that things. But my interpretation is really, this limit also has to do. Okay, if you are an admin, you go to that list, you add another 100,000 to it. I mean, if you're ingesting threat intelligence into Microsoft Sentinel, you won't believe how many customer environments I've seen due to misconfiguration that have 23 million entries in their indicator list, right? Now imagine if people ended up just, feeding, spam house, not even thinking of the confidence level. You will easily up also in millions of indicators, right? And I guess there's a big risk there because you might also then end up adding a lot of indicators that actually will block you from working. So I understand that people are frustrated. On the other hand, I believe indirectly it makes people more thinking of what to actually add to the indicator list. Because I believe that if there's no limit, and even if the technical challenges will be solved, that you can easily deploy a list of 100,000, 200,000 indicators to all of your managed devices. I believe people would be less thinking of what they're actually adding. And we probably would have now and then a company that goes offline simply because of, bad content being ingested into the IOC block list. Yeah, that's just my little.
Can I reply you, Alex?
Yeah.
I would say that I totally agree with you because I'm using a lot this IOC endpoint level, and I'm more or less adding 2,000, 3,000 entries daily. And for example, I'm using Malware Bazaar. Malware Bazaar, I think that is one of the most trusted ones. Are we agree on that? Or at least more, really well known. And even from it, I have had false positive. And if you can imagine, then the damage. People not able to open some valid files, no? So as you said, it's important to try to understand that the damage that can have to add IOCs in this endpoint level. And second point, for me, I have to say that add IOCs in the endpoint level should be a new approach in the coming years. Why? Because if you are blocking an IOC in the endpoint level, doesn't matter which country I'm visiting, which ISP I'm connecting. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where I'm connecting. I'm connecting in a Wi-Fi that a hacker has shared his connection or her connection in the airport with malicious intentions, and and I'm accessing to some place, whatever. Doesn't matter the network. What is important here is the endpoint. But as you said, it's important to try to really be sure that what we are adding as an IOC is really, really malicious.
And at least from what I recently learned, if you would only add the, confidence level really 100 to it, you probably end up with much less. But yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it was 5,000. They bumped it up to 10,000. Now it's, I believe, 15,000. So
I didn't know that it was 5,000.
I think in the end there will be some sort of maybe taxi integration, and then you can just do a water hose to. In Sentinel, you already have it, so I'm just waiting for Defender to have it. That's.
I don't want to make a marketing show out of the KQL, although it originates also from Microsoft. But I guess probably in global secure access, you would have more possibilities to do such blocking, assuming that your client goes through the global secure access network, and that there in the backend you will have more capabilities of blocking larger volumes of IOCs, etc.
Good.
All right. Good. Thank you again, Sergio. Lively discussion. I also see in the forum. So for all those that came in later, as usual, I'll be doing my best to make sure the show notes are being released as quick as possible, as well does Gianni with the recording. I believe today we are lucky because our guest didn't share any company screens or dashboards where we have to do some after blurring work. So that's good. Then thank you, Sergio. And then I suggest we continue with the remaining of the show. And if anyone has any questions to Sergio, you'll find him also on socials, LinkedIn, etc. I don't know. Do you have a preferred communication channel, Sergio?
Ping me on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. And if you like to stay, you're welcome. Good. So last night, Gianni and I were tinkering. Hey, what should we show? The search and aware operators. I would guess by now everybody knows who is working with KQL. And then while I was geeking out with Gianni, he showed me some detection queries, and I said, "Hey, that looks cool. Set intersect and set difference." So, Gianni, tell us a little bit more about those two operators and how you make use of them, please.
Yes, I'll do that. Share my screen. Okay, so share window. No, not that one. No music today. So this one. Good. So, like Alex said, We have the set intersect and the set difference are two operators which we can use in the security portal in Sentinel Defender. So start with a simple query. It's a bit bigger. So basically, start with the beginning. We were playing around with logins over RDP. So yesterday I was making a RDP session through a jump host. So basically a tunneled RDP session. So what we did was I wanted to make a query out of that. So basically you have the identity logon events. You also have the device logon events. Those two tables you can use to play around with. But for now I chose this one, and over here you can see we scroll down back to yesterday. Somewhere here there should be the RDP connection. Case controls remote desktop. So this was one of them. A bit here. You can see that there's a connection made from the CS1 to the DC. So basically I have a desktop, I have a certificate server, and I have a DC, and I wanted to see how things went. So basically what we first do, I filter out all the records where we didn't have a target device name, because you need a target device name to make an RDP connection. And now we can see basically we have the one device, the desktop, then the other device, the CSO1. And basically we have the destination device, which was the domain controller, and the target device was the device being targeted. And what I wanted to do was make two sets, one with all the sources and one with all the destinations, and then make them by account SID, because you can have multiple users in your environment, and bin of one day, but you have some grouping together. So basically now what we have is we have in the sources, we have the desktop and the certificate server. And then in the destinations, we have the certificate server and the domain controller. So the next step would be to use an operator to find the overlapping between these two. In this case, the certificate server was in the middle. So that's where I started to use the intersect option. So basically I say, hey, my jump host is set intersect between sources and destinations. If you use the operator like this, you get a new column. And from the new column, you will see, hey, we have the jump host, which was the CSO1. So basically, this is in my small environment. You can see this relatively easy. But if you have a bigger environment, you have to do some tuning, because you can maybe have an administrator working on 10 devices at the same time to perform maybe a Windows update or anything if he has to do it manually. So you need to have some filtering, but for this use case, it's a good starting position because we have sources, destination, jump host, in this case was the CS1. So next would be to find out, okay, then we want also to have the source. So basically what we use is the set difference to see what the difference is between the sources and the jump host. So in this case, if we look at source, we see that the desktop was sources minus the jump host. So next we want to do basically the same, but then with the destinations. And then we have the destination, we have the source, so we're all good. By the way, I'm using the bracket 1 because by default this is an array, so you have multiple items in there. If we would remove this, then it will be in brackets. So if you look at here, the destination, and it looks a bit flaky if you want to make a nice path out of it. So we'll do this brackets 1. And now it's nice and clean. So we have the destination, we have the source, and we have the jump host. But if we would make the jump host also 0, then the query will break a bit. So now we have jump host and the destination. So for some reason, it doesn't like if you make a single value out of array and then do a set difference. It doesn't like it. So now we have the values, and now we can make a path. I tend to use str_cut, where you make a string concatenation out of your values. So we have the source, we have the jump host, and here I make it still the single value, so we don't have the crazy brackets around it. If you do it like this, then we have a nice path. So yesterday I did from desktop to CS1 to DC1 to make a nice path out of it. Now that's the KQL learning for this month. Basically, set intersect set difference is nice to make to compare values. I tried it once on JSONs. That didn't work out. It's quite well. So then you have to basically you have the JSON, then you have to first cut it up into smaller arrays, and then you can do set intersect. So basically, if you look at the logging for conditional access, then you can drill down to maybe account and controls and those kind of values, and then do a comparison with the set intersect. But you can't use full JSON objects in here. So that was basically what I wanted to show. Like Alex says, all the queries will be in the show notes. So if you want to play with it, please do, because you can make real good fun with it.
Yeah, and although, as we noticed yesterday, depending on the timing, it's maybe not yet ready for a detection rule, but I rather consider this as a sort of a threat hunting rule or proactive hunting, or not even to looking for bad things, but maybe more for bad behavior by administrators. I guess by now, if we look at privileged access, workstations, and whatsoever, but despite having that in place, if it's not well configured, people might still use other paths to get to critical servers. So this query, if I turn that into how would I use that, could definitely be helpful. I'm going to run it in some environments in the next days to see if we see some unwanted behavior from where to where people are actually connecting to, or what they use to jump around in the company. Yeah. Good. Yeah, then I have a small one. I'm still on that DevOps path. Last month I shared a query that originated from a customer who said, I have actually no idea what my users or my developers are using in terms of development tools. So we've basically thrown in all the telemetry that we have from Intune, Defender, and basically just started looking around for Git and pip and Python and all sorts of artifacts. And as I was playing around with the exposure nodes, I was actually, and it always happens like that with me, and I guess with others as well, I was actually looking for something totally different. But then I did a distinct on the edge node labels, and I found, since I recently connected my Defender for Cloud to it, to Defender XDR, and now in the exposure management and the underlying KQL tables, I noticed, hey, I can easily get an inventory of at least all the Azure DevOps organizations and repositories in the environment. So that was an easy one. Took me a couple of minutes, but there we go. We have another query that hopefully one day will be useful to someone. And when I say that, ironically, sometimes I'm really grateful for people who ping me, be it internally or externally, like, hey, thank you for this script, and I'm looking at it. I wrote that 4 years ago, or it was just a snippet. But that's always nice to see that even the code snippets or the query snippets are of use, or other people use it to, build it into their own more complex queries. Yeah. Good. Again. Oh, we have another one from Gianni. Yeah, surprise.
So I was playing with a friend the other day, and we were discussing what can you see from an incident from the KQL. So basically, let me share my window again. So basically, we have a nice incident over here with a lot of alerts in here. And then there's all these activities. Basically, what happened was there was some Cobalt Strike activity here. I played around a bit, did some nice things. And then I wanted to see, hey, what can you see? So first I started looking for maybe files that have been used. I was looking in here and I thought, yeah, okay, so we don't have any files, we don't have any good set of command lines from the incident. So then I was looking in the data, and I came to Microsoft Sentinel. In Sentinel, we still have the same view. We have this alert, this incident. We have 63 alerts, but still not the thing I was hoping for. Because in the end, I wanted to have like I said, the command lines or files related, maybe scripts related. So I started playing around with the data. So over here, we have the incident. Oh, okay. I broke my Sentinel. That's good. Let's try it again. Demo gods, where are you? But anyways, I can explain it a bit. So what I did is I linked the security alert data to the incident to the alert pane. And from here, we have entities. Yes. So basically, we have all the 63 incidents. I folded them out. So we joined the incident on all the records we have in the alerts table. Basically, data is thing we discussed before. So now we have a lot of entities here in the T. So basically, if you look in here, you can see Cobalt Strike URL. We see everything related, and in this case, we also have the value command line. And next, what I wanted to do, I wanted to see everything that contains a command line. So I expanded first this dynamic array, then just returned everything that relates to a command line. Now we have every record here that contains a command line somewhere, but it's still a bit messy. So what I do is getting a command line, put it into a string, and then even with parse path to make it a bit nicer. You have the path because you might want to see which commands are there. You also have the just make it a bit easier to read project commands. Like this, we have the command line. What we want to see is basically make it distinct. And now we have from the Sentinel incident, we have all commands that have been run. So we have the encoded PowerShell string. We have all the commands that are being run. We can see, hey, related to this incident, we did a lot of net commands. We created groups, administrators. So this is an easy way to see all the goodness in the command. So you can also quickly search, hey, did we use these commands on other systems maybe? That's the thing I wanted to share this month.
Cool. Yeah, I must admit, whenever I know of a company who has recently done a pen test, I do exactly the same and see what commands they have been executing. Yeah. Good. Okay, then thank you, Gianni, for that, and thanks everyone for attending. Did I miss something?
No, we're all good.
No. Okay, so yeah, next month we're back. Let me quickly see. Next month we have with us Bert-Jan, actually. Yeah, Bert-Jan was here a long time ago. So Bert-Jan Cyber. And yeah, then we're working also on some cool guests in May and June. Yeah, so next month we're back on track on the last Tuesday of the month, April 29th. Yeah, we also hope that by then we might have a little bit more information about the KustoCon for this year, to share the date. What we can say, we will run it in a meetup form, so it's not going to be a big conference. There are enough big conferences already where people are going to, but we're doing our best to bring up a second KustoCon like we did last year. Yeah. Okay, then again, thanks everyone for joining. Have a nice morning, day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and see you and speak to you next time. Thank you.
Thanks all. See you next time.
Thanks, bye.